I can already tell you that today's topic is going to be extremely hard hitting for me because we're going to talk about procrastination paralysis. But can I just tell you guys, I have been procrastinating recording this episode for the better part of the entire week. I have had this on my to-do list since Monday to get in a place where I could sit down, write down my thoughts, collect my thoughts, record this episode, and share with you guys some of the struggles that I'm having as an entrepreneur, a mom, a wife, a business owner, a boss. And for whatever reason, it has felt like I've had just complete mental shutdown. I've had writer's block. Now, we do have a lot going on right now. It's a very busy time of year. It's a very busy season for all of us for fourth quarter, especially in retail. But I really don't know why this has really taken me all week to sit down and record this. And as I've been writing down all morning, all of the notes and all the things that I want to say about why I know I procrastinate tasks that are going on in my world and my daily life. And a few of them are really kind of hitting home for me today. And I'm really hoping that they do for you as well. But let me just start by saying you're not lazy. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You are not a failure. All of these things that we self-sabotage and tell ourselves as to the reason why we are not getting our list done, or we're less than, or whatever may be going on. There are so many deeper and more rooted reasons as to why we're not accomplishing things and why we actually procrastinate. And it was one of those things where it was a huge rabbit hole for me. The more I dug into my own self, the more I dug into why I procrastinate certain tasks, the more it really uncovered for me personally about some areas of growth that I'm still working through. And I'm going to be really vulnerable in this episode, because procrastination is something that I struggle with just as a human, as a person. I've always struggled with it for many different reasons, some of these stronger than others. But that's what we're going to really dive into today. And we're going to help you tackle, just like me, why you have procrastination paralysis. And we're going to stop the shame and get on your game. This is the Hottie Hustle. Hey y'all, my name is Amy Curley and I'm your resident hottie. I'm a veteran in the retail apparel industry with a brick and mortar location, a wholesale apparel line, a monthly subscription box, and event rental spaces. During my 11 years in this industry, I have accumulated a wealth of firsthand experiences and a growing list of what to do and what not to do when running a small business. I may not be a millionaire or in the Fortune 500, but I have learned to gross millions of dollars in sales by using a combination of old faithful sales tactics, tricks of the trade, and diversifying my platform into experiential retail. I'm just your average girl next door, but if you hang with me and get ready to take action on your passion, I can help you go from hesitant to hottie in your own entrepreneurship journey. This is the Hottie Hustle. So I'm really hoping that I'm going to give you guys an aha moment here right off the bat, because I absolutely had one when I very first heard the way that this was explained to me. And if you don't already, I highly recommend that you follow Mel Robbins on TikTok. She's somebody that I have been obsessed with over the past couple of weeks, and I've taken some really great points from her in my own entrepreneurship journey. And she gave me a light bulb moment a couple of weeks ago when I knew I wanted to talk about procrastination. I knew I had some tips and tricks that I use. I knew it was something that I personally struggled with. And so I just started, throwing myself into research and listening and absorbing and taking away different components and pieces from people who inspire and motivate me so that I can help inspire and motivate you guys. And this is what Mel Robbins said that absolutely changed my life and my perspective and truly has helped me pinpoint and tackle all of my procrastination woes in one fell swoop. And that is that procrastination is an addiction. And for so long, I would always, really my entire life, I associated procrastination as something that I was doing because I didn't want to do the thing, whether that had been an action or a task or something I had to get done on my to-do list. I was associating that I was procrastinating not doing it because I didn't want to do that thing. When really, I've been struggling with this my whole life because I have an addiction to procrastination. It is an absolute habit-forming behavior, just like any other thing that can become a habit or an addiction. It is toxic in your life. And until you kind of peel back the layers of this onion and figure out what are the things that you're really avoiding by procrastinating, you're going to continue to do it. So for me, I started to really sit down and take all of these tips and tricks and motivational tips that I was getting from everybody. And I kind of decided that people can fall into 3 different categories. And so we're really going to talk a lot today about what those 3 categories are and where you might fit in and how you can take that category and associate behaviors, but also ways that you can get out of those behaviors and break your own habits. So here are the 3 things that I kind of came to the conclusion of. Procrastination, first and foremost, is developed out of self-protection. I don't know about you guys, but I am protecting myself from something, whether that is an emotion, whether that is something I don't want to do, whether that is protecting what I'm doing in the moment that is preventing me from tackling another task. Prime example, sleeping. If you don't jump right out of bed in the morning when your alarm goes off, you're protecting yourself to get more sleep rather than getting up and getting your day started. So here are kind of the 3 things that I feel like we self-protect within. Number 1, you likely procrastinate for self-protection if you have a strong drive for success, but a stronger fear of failure. And I absolutely can check that box. I am a very big people pleaser. I have been my entire life. I have a huge fear of failure, especially because I'm a business owner. So I am definitely box checker number 1. Procrastination can also be self-protection for you if you firmly believe that your performance and your work says something about who you are as a person and your character. Now, I manage a few people like this. On my team specifically, I would say I probably have some of these characteristics as well, because what I put out, I always want to be 1000% my best work and my best effort. And if I can't give you that in that moment, I will procrastinate and put off doing the task until I feel like I can give 100% of myself in that moment to do it the way that I feel it should be done. And then the third category that I've kind of come up with here for this start is going to be that you are procrastinating to self-protect because you're getting a high, or as one of my directors likes to call it, a dopamine kick from waiting until the last minute to do something. Because if you're like me and you're like this director who absolutely knows who she is, if she's listening to this episode, you tell yourself that we are better under pressure. And we are addicted to what we call a runner's high that we're going to get from the stress that's surrounding our performance because we feel like we're better under pressure. I am sure that everybody listening knows at least one person, and maybe it's you. If you don't know the person, you're the person who feels this exact way. Do you always wait to the last minute because you feel like, oh, I'm better under pressure? Now, sometimes that may be true. We may be really good at performing under pressure because we are afraid of consequences. And I figured that out about myself as I was kind of writing all of these things down. I'm really strong in all 3 of these areas in terms of where I categorize myself. If you're a type A personality like me, you probably identify with all 3 of those categories. You have a very strong fear of failure. You believe that your work and your performance says something about who you are, and you get a high from waiting until the last minute because you are better under pressure. But really, guys, procrastination is tied to the emotion that we are afraid of the consequences. And for me, even further than that, and maybe even worse than that, I am motivated by the consequences. If you tell me exactly what's going to happen, A, B, and C, unless I perform, that is all the motivation that I need to get my task list done because I am fearful of consequences. And I think those consequences are really what started to help me take a step back and utilize tools to better combat my lack of planning, get rid of that sense of urgency. And let's be honest, we've all been there as you're going through your list of things you have to get done. I know you're like me and you probably cherry pick them. I mean, listen, if we're multitasking women, if you're listening to this and you are one or two of all of the above, mom, wife, sister, boss, leader, CEO, partner, whatever the case may be, you cherry pick your whole day. We get really good at going through and deciding what has to be today, what can be tomorrow, and what can be the next day. I mean, we even implemented that as a little mantra that we would say in our operations department: today, tomorrow, the next day. Because at some point, you just have to realize that you can't tackle everything on your list in a day's work. But there are things that invoke consequences if you don't get them done. And those things are what can take priority. But I'm telling you right now, if I've got a to-do list and nothing's going to happen if I don't get that to-do list done today, I'm absolutely going to put that task off until tomorrow. And even within putting off those tasks until the next day or until tomorrow, I would find myself white lying my way through why I didn't need to be doing whatever task it was that I was fearful to start or fearful for whatever emotion doing the task would invoke. I would say things to myself like, well, I'll never get it finished. If I start right now, I'm not going to finish it. It's better to wait until tomorrow when I have more time and I have a better chance of getting it done. Or, gosh, I'm really tired. I don't have the energy to start. Or the kids are going to need something. I guarantee you, if I start this, someone's going to interrupt me. It would be better if I just didn't start it at all. I mean, I could think of a million ways that I would self-sabotage and lie to my own self because I was looking for a way to hype myself up and get motivation to start that task. And I kept making excuses for why I didn't need to get motivated. When in reality, guys, we do not need to be relying on motivation to do the action or to do the task. When in reality, what I have now found later and after the fact is that my motivation is absolutely coming from completing the action first. And then I'm finding how much more empowered I feel. And I use that as trajectory to build upon and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And I'll give you a prime example. And a great way to compare this is my weight loss journey. And I would not say I've been overweight my entire life, but I have been a bigger chick my entire life. I know we've talked about this a little bit in the self-confidence episode, but my weight loss journey has been the epitome of my procrastination my entire life. There has always been a reason and always been an excuse why I can't start that diet today. And I was getting really good at coming up with any lie that I could tell myself as to why I didn't need to lose weight. Y'all, down to the fact that I was even using you as my customers as the reason why I should not lose weight. I was telling myself, I am a poster child for women who are plus size, who are not industry standard. And if I lose weight, I am a phony and I'm a liar and I'm going against everything that I stand for as being proud of who you are and invoking women empowerment. I mean, these are the types of very deep-rooted, very good, convincing lies that I was telling myself to the point where I believed it. And I had put off taking control of my weight and my health, I mean, for the better part of 11 years now. This has been since I've had children and started this business. 11 years I've been putting this off, when in reality, I was avoiding the emotion and I was avoiding the anxiety and I was afraid of failing. And that's really the reason why I put it to the side, and I procrastinated starting because I was afraid of all of those things that came along with it. What happens if I don't lose the weight? What happens if I start documenting this and everybody sees it? What happens if people find out how much I really weigh? What happens if I become vulnerable? What if? All of these lies and all of these anxiety riddled emotions that we convince ourselves to feel so that we don't have to deal with the task. We don't have to face it. It doesn't become reality. My mom used to say this all the time about my youngest brother. I love him dearly. But us three children were very different when it came to schoolwork and homework. And Jay is a great example of the way that I felt about my procrastination. And when we would get an assignment, she tells the story all the time, my mother does. If I got homework as a child, it was done a week in advance, sitting on the kitchen table. Nobody touch it, but everybody can look at it and admire it, but it's done a week early. My middle brother, Chad, would get a homework assignment. He would wait till the very last night before it was due. And then sometimes he would wait until it was actually due during the class session and pass the homework up. Jay, if you didn't talk about it, the homework didn't exist. Jay, do you have homework? What homework? So I was absolutely living my Jay life when it came to dealing with my own weight loss journey. If we didn't talk about it, if we didn't pay any attention to the fact that I was overweight, to the fact that I was unhappy, it didn't really exist, and I didn't have to acknowledge it, and I didn't have to deal with it, and there were no emotions surrounding it. I couldn't fail. I couldn't be disappointed. I couldn't let anybody down. I was safe. And I was protected. And our brains are wired to feel that way. And if you think about it, it's absolutely true. We are programmed as human beings to do anything and everything possible to avoid any type of discomfort or any type of pain. So of course, I'm going to avoid trying to lose weight. Of course, I'm going to avoid the discomfort of facing my body image in the mirror, talking about the fact that I need to lose weight and doing something about it. It was my lifelong habit and addiction of procrastinating that kept me in that unhappy state. And the irony of this whole thing is that I was avoiding pain. I was avoiding discomfort. I was avoiding feeling like I was being judged, when in all reality, if I just would have faced it, I would have found so much more happiness, and I would have found exactly what I was looking for, but I was too scared to see it. I was too afraid to face it, and I was too scared to see it. So my deepest rooted problem in procrastination is absolutely the emotion. But I know now that there are ways that I can face that, and I want to be able to help you guys do the same thing. If you're feeling and finding that your procrastination habits and your procrastination addicted, and that is rooted from avoiding things in your life that are going to invoke emotions you don't want to deal with. And for me, I started by doing two things. I acknowledged my stress, and I started to identify my triggers. And both of those were very life-changing for me in being able to prevent it from happening and prevent the procrastination from happening from the get-go. And so the first thing that I actually did is I had to acknowledge my stress. I had a conversation with myself. Okay, let's take this weight loss example and continue to run with that. I don't want to work out because I am avoiding the discomfort of feeling out of shape. That's the stress that I have. Okay, Amy, let's play worst case scenario. Let's say you work out. What's the worst that could possibly happen by acknowledging that stress? Well, the worst that could happen is that I would be in probably about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour worth of discomfort, muscle soreness, pain, fatigue, out of breath. I would feel discomfort for that amount of time. But the best thing that could happen is that I only feel that discomfort for that amount of time, and I never have to feel that way again. I never have to feel that bad in that moment if I just go ahead and do it. And so I did. And for me, acknowledging my stress and acknowledging the weight gain was owning the fact that I had to be okay with being in a little bit of discomfort now to get a better long-term result with no discomfort later. I was planning for my future self. And that is absolutely how I started. And I started tackling just a little bit of a walk in the morning. I would start with a mile, and then I would do a 1.25 miles, and then I would do 1.5 miles. And slowly but surely, by acknowledging that stress I had about being in discomfort and acknowledging that my body was getting better and better into shape, my morning walks are truly where this whole podcast idea came from. Had I not self-started and tackled and acknowledged that stress in my life and overcome it, I would not even be sitting here having this conversation about procrastination with you right now. And so for me, that one small win, that one small victory changed the entire trajectory of my life, of my business, of my body, and of my entire future. My entire future just by acknowledging the stress. Guys, you have just a moment. And I mentioned this earlier, but Mel Robbins is just phenomenal. And she taught me this. And I was actually researching on TikTok when I was looking for that motivation to get started, which we now know is not the right way to go about it. But I was looking for the motivation to get started in my weight loss journey. And I found her, and I found this tip, and I want to share it with you. You have the moment that you have an instinct to make a move. You have 5 seconds to act on it, or your brain will intuitively kill it. 5 seconds. 5 seconds is all that you have. And I talked about this in one of my previous episodes, and we talked about using it when you wake up in the morning to get your day started. But you can use it for anything. Start a ritual. We'll call it the 5-second rule now. Not the 5-second rule where something drops on the floor and you can eat it. Do not adopt that rule. That's not this 5-second rule. Counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, actually interrupts habit formers in your brain. That is scientific fact. So that's one of the reasons why Mel actually recommends this. Counting backwards and the 5-second rule, not only does your brain have 5 seconds to act or it will kill the emotion and kill the idea to make a move, but by counting backwards, you interrupt your habit formers. It awakens your brain. Kind of think of this as what she calls it, a cheat code. My husband and my daughter are huge gamers. They are constantly looking for cheat codes in Fortnite and in Call of Duty. And so think of this as a cheat code for your brain. Count backwards the moment you have an instinct to make a move, and that way you continue to act on it. And once you've decided to take that action, there's a secondary little rule that I try to follow, and I call that the 2-minute rule. But if a task that I am looking at evaluating, or if I'm making my to-do list, and it's going to take 2 minutes or less, 2 minutes or less, I do it immediately. I don't procrastinate. I don't put it off. And this is something that I just kind of started recently implementing, I would say probably for the last 90 days or so. And honestly, guys, it has really helped me. I love making to-do lists. I love crossing things off of my to-do list. I will even go back and add something to the to-do list that I've already done, just so I can get that dopamine kick, as my director Lisa likes to call it. I like the dopamine kick of being able to cross it off the list, because I use that to build and to build and to build, and it makes me feel more motivated to keep going. But if I have written something down and it's going to take 2 minutes or less, I am going to act in that moment. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to keep that instinct, and I'm going to get it done, because it is going to be even harder the longer that you wait. And that small task will just pile up and pile up and pile up and pile up. And before you know it, you'll have an entire piece of paper full of 2-minute tasks that you could have already gotten done if you just would have stopped to do it. So use that momentum that you have in the morning. count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, interrupt those habit formers, get your 2-minute tasks knocked out first thing in the morning. And I promise you that is a great way to get your day started and to combat any of those addictive habits that you've had to build up in your life, or any triggers that you might have that are instantly making you feel like you don't want to get those tasks done. Now, I want to talk a little bit about triggers because I just mentioned them, and that was my second kind of key point here in how I've been learning here recently to deal with my procrastination habits and my procrastination addiction. And part of knowing your triggers is what I have found is to get curious. Get curious about why you're putting it off. And so here are some things, and here's some questions that you can ask yourself that I feel like when I go to have my status meetings with my staff, we've actually come up with 3 criteria. And if you're a part of the Hottie Hustle, this is actually one of those free downloads that I really want to give you guys, because this has been a fantastic tool that we have implemented in our one-on-one status meetings so that we don't have any form of procrastination or miscommunication going on as to what we think we're supposed to be working on and what things are priority. And so I'm going to put this up for the Hottie Hustle on our website. If you've not already joined, this small, very intimate group of women is bomb. There are some major hitters that are joining our Hottie Hustle program. You can go to thehottihustle.com. It takes literally 2 minutes to get signed up, and it will change your perspective on your business. And I give out free tools and free templates like this quite often. We do lives in this very intimate small group. So if you haven't already joined, please do that. But I'm going to share this status meeting template that I developed for them. And we have it broken up into 3 separate categories so that it invokes questions and getting curious about the job. Again, so we can avoid any triggers that would cause miscommunication, not being clear on directive, and avoid procrastination. And those 3 categories that we implement are what I have accomplished, what I am working on, and what I need help to tackle. So basically it tells me, what have you been doing since our last meeting? What are your priorities to get done? And how can I support you? In addition to those 3 categories, getting curious in your own job, in your own life. And even if you want to take this outside of your professional or career driven life and just getting curious in your personal life. Again, going back to that weight loss journey story. Here are some questions that can really help with your procrastination triggers when you start to feel them creeping up on you. And again, these are meant to get you curious so that you can better understand what those triggers are. So here are the questions that I would recommend you ask yourself. Question number 1. Am I getting a trigger, and am I feeling like I want to procrastinate because I am unclear on what I am supposed to be doing? Question number 2. Am I feeling like I want to procrastinate because this task seems boring? Question 3. Am I feeling like I want to procrastinate because this task feels punishing? And question number 4, is there any part of this that can be delegated or given to someone else, or could I collaborate with another team member and bring somebody else in to be duplicatable so that I can better achieve this task and not procrastinate? And I wish I could take all the credit for these questions because I feel like these are very good questions to internally reflect. But honestly, guys, a lot of this has come from managing people who, if you're resonating with these questions, if you're like, yes, that's me, that feels boring, that feels mundane, that feels monotonous, this is why I can't do it. It's because I supervise people and I work with people who are just like you. And I'm going to use Lisa as an example again, and I know she won't mind, but she's the greatest example I have of this, because a lot of these questions that I wrote down actually stem from one-on-ones and status meetings that we have together. So Lisa is a neurodivergent. She's actually going to be on another future episode of the Hottie Hustle because she has gotten very good over the years. She's been with me for 4 years now, but she has ADHD, and she has a lot of trouble staying focused and completing and not procrastinating doing her administrative tasks when it comes to her job duties. And so I know now by managing Lisa that I have from about, honestly, y'all, 6 in the morning, because that's when she's up and moving and she's implemented her 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She's moving around. She's getting those 2-minute or less tasks done. I have about 6 a.m. until about probably 2 p.m. to get the best administrative work I can out of her. And anything after 2 p.m., it becomes ghost town. And I know that about Lisa because those tasks then become mundane. I mean, and she's quite literally told me it is painful for her. It's like she gets a mental block and a headache and a migraine. She can't physically do those tasks into the afternoon. She needs to be up, moving around. She needs to be creative. She needs to be moving her body. She needs to do all of those things. But I only found that out as her boss, and I only learned how to manage her better by getting curious about how to supervise her. Was it because she was unclear on what she was supposed to be doing? No, she was clear on what she was supposed to be doing. She just felt like those tasks were boring and almost punishing. And so we learned to come to a compromise. But again, I only found that out about her because I learned to be curious and I learned to ask questions. And I found a better way to supervise her so that I set her up for success and we could avoid procrastination. And this last part that I'm going to focus on when it comes to beating your procrastination paralysis is probably the most difficult thing that especially we as women are faced with, and that is to give yourself credit for the hard things that you're doing. Take those complex works as small wins, and guys, it's okay to not see progress. And I think we sometimes get tripped up. And again, I hate to keep going back to my weight loss journey here as a reference, but it's just the best life reference that I have. And honestly, my procrastination struggle that has taken me over 11 years to fight through. And I think in general, when procrastination is stemming from not having visible progress, we immediately get hung up because we don't know the next step, right? We don't see the weight drop on the scale. We don't see the numbers go down. We don't wear a smaller pant size. So in our mind, if we can't see it, it's just like Jay's homework. It's not real and it doesn't exist. But just because you can't see the visible progress doesn't mean progress isn't happening, and it doesn't mean it's not productive. Let's say you spend 1 hour cleaning your house and the same 1 hour trying to make some complex decision. The work that you spent cleaning your house is going to make you feel like there's more progress because it's visible. You can physically see the house being clean. You can see there's no clothes on the floor. Maybe you've tackled that doing laundry, but those are things that are trackable, they're physical, and you can see them. Deeper thinking and higher level thinking can feel extremely frustrating. And it needs more space to be accomplished. That's 100% where Lisa lives, right? We had just talked about the fact that it seems punishing and boring to her. Those tasks are mundane because it requires a deeper level of thinking and a higher level of thinking. And she needs more space to be able to accomplish those tasks so she doesn't put them off and procrastinate. But it doesn't mean that while she works on those, even in some small capacity, that she's not being productive. And my hope for each one of you guys that are here as part of the Hottie Hustle is that you continue to do the hard things, that you don't let your fear of failure keep you from achieving your goal, keep you from taking that leap, keep you from starting your business. There will always be challenges. It's just the nature of the beast when you're in business for yourself. But there is no greater reward than when you do accomplish that to-do list and you do complete those hard tasks and you complete them well and you use that motivation to continue to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. For me, that's the runner's high that I seek now. It's no longer putting things off until the last minute. It's no longer procrastinating. It's the feeling that I get when I'm stepping on the scale and I see the scale go down. It's the feeling when I can wear a smaller size jean. It's the feeling when we hit a sales goal. It's the feeling when somebody else joins the Hottie Hustle. That to me is my new high, and I'm constantly seeking, learning, educating myself, collaborating, looking for inspiration with others, because that's my new addiction. That's my new runner's high. I'm kicking the addiction to procrastination, and instead we're going after success in 2024. Guys, I thank you so very much for being here as part of the Hottie Hustle. I hope that you continue to show up here each Sunday as we release new episodes. Please head over to thehottihustle.com so you can also join that very intimate, amazing group of women as part of the Hottie Hustle membership. And if nothing else, if you enjoyed this podcast today and you are showing up every Sunday and having a great time hanging out with me, I would love for you to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. That's how we can get that out to as many people and as many women who are out there that would love to hear this. As always, I love you guys. Stay hot and hustle hard.